I woke up to an eviction notice taped to my dorm room door 3 weeks before finals, signed by my own mother. My name is Connor, and for the first 18 years of my life, I genuinely believed I had a normal, loving family. My parents, Richard, 54, and Patricia, 52, were the kind of people who hosted the neighborhood barbecue, who remembered everyone's birthdays, who volunteered at the church food bank every Thanksgiving. They were the couple other couples aspired to be. My older sister, Vanessa, 27, was a golden child in a way that didn't feel malicious. She was just easier, more magnetic, someone who seemed to glide through life while the rest of us trudged. I was the quiet one, the steady one, the one who kept his head down, got decent grades, and never caused trouble. We weren't a family that screamed or fought. We were a family that smiled for photographs and then went to our separate corners of the house. I was 20 years old, in my junior year at Northern State University, a solid 3-hour drive from my hometown of Oak Haven. My parents had helped with my first year of tuition, but after that, the well ran dry. Not because they couldn't afford it. My father was a senior project manager for a construction firm, and my mother was a dental hygienist with 20 years of seniority. They just stopped offering. So I worked. I worked 30 hours a week at a grocery warehouse, stacking boxes from midnight until 6 in the morning, then dragging myself to classes, then studying until my eyes blurred. It was exhausting, but I was doing it. I was making it work. Then Vanessa called me on a Tuesday night in early April. I was in the library, running on 4 hours of sleep and too much caffeine, trying to memorize organic chemistry mechanisms that refused to stick. My phone buzzed, and I almost didn't answer, but it was her. "Connor," she said, and her voice had that breathless quality it got when she was about to deliver news. "I'm pregnant." I remember setting down my highlighter. Wow. Okay, that's huge. Are you okay? Is everything okay? She laughed, a little nervously. Yeah, I think so. It was a surprise. A huge surprise. But I'm keeping it. I'm excited. Vanessa had been dating her boyfriend, Derek, for about 8 months. He was a nice enough guy. Worked at a car dealership, drove a truck, had that easy, confident charm that I always found slightly intimidating. I didn't know him well, but he seemed to make her happy. I told her I was happy for her, that I'd be there for whatever she needed. I meant it, despite the distance that had grown between us as adults. She was still my sister. I loved her. I didn't think much more about it. I assumed she and Derek would figure things out, maybe get placed together, start their little family. I had my own mountain to climb. Finals were 3 weeks away, and I was barely keeping my head above water. The following weekend, I drove home to Oak Haven for a quick visit. My mother had called and said they want to talk about something, and I was too tired to read between the lines. When I walked into the house, the living room was already in a state of transformation. My mother was holding paint swatches against the wall where our old family photos used to hang. The couch had been pushed to the center of the room, and there was a box of baby clothes sitting on the coffee table. "Oh, Connor, good, you're here," my mother said, not looking away from the paint swatches. "What do you think? Sage or buttercup yellow?" I'm leaning towards sage. It's more calming. "For what?" I asked, dropping my bag by the door. "For the nursery, of course. Vanessa's old room is going to be the nursery. We're converting it." I blinked. "Vanessa's moving back home?" My father emerged from the kitchen, a cup of coffee in his hand. He was a tall man, broad-shouldered, with the kind of presence that filled a room without him saying a word. "She needs our support, son. This is a big change for her. She's going to stay here during the pregnancy and after the baby's born. Help her get on her feet." "That's great," I said slowly. "That's really great. She's lucky to have you." There was a pause. My mother finally turned to look at me, and there was something in her expression I couldn't quite read, a kind of resolve. "We've been talking, Connor, about the living situation." My stomach dropped. I knew in that instant what was coming. I tried to head it off. "Look, I know it'll be crowded. I can stay out of the way. I'll be studying most of the time anyway, and we need your room," my father said flatly. The words hung in the air like a physical blow. "I'm sorry," I said. "Your room is the largest of the 3 bedrooms," my mother explained, as if she were walking me through a simple math problem. "Vanessa needs space for herself and the baby. Your room will be perfect. We've already started clearing out your things." My things. I thought about my room upstairs, the posters I'd had since high school, the books I collected, the desk where I'd done my homework for years. My things. Where am I supposed to go? I asked, my voice coming out steadier than I felt. My father sighed, a sound of impatience. "You're an adult, Connor. You're in college. You've been living away from home most of the year anyway. It's time you found your own place." "I can't afford my own place," I said, and I could hear the edge of desperation creeping in. "I'm barely affording tuition. I work 30 hours a week, and I still don't have enough for rent. That's why I come home on breaks. That's why I'm here right now." "That's not our problem," my mother said, and her voice was soft, almost gentle, which somehow made it worse. "We've done so much for you already. We helped with your first year of college. We gave you a roof over your head for 18 years. It's Vanessa's turn now. She needs us more." I stared at her, trying to find the mother I thought I knew in that calm, reasonable face. "Finals are in 3 weeks. I have nowhere to go. I have no savings. I have a job I need to keep in classes I need to pass. You're telling me I have to figure out housing in the middle of all that." "You'll figure out," my father said. "You're responsible. You always land on your feet." 2 sentences. That was all he gave me. "You're responsible. You'll figure it out." I tried to argue. I tried to explain that the house wasn't even that small. It had 3 bedrooms, a finished basement, a guest room that was used maybe twice a year. I pointed out that Vanessa could take the guest room or the basement. I pointed out that I wasn't asking for much, just a place to sleep during breaks, just a home base while I finished school. Nothing worked. They had made up their minds. The decision was final. That night, I slept in my childhood bed for the last time. I didn't sleep much. I lay there, staring at the ceiling, trying to figure out what I was going to do. I thought about calling Vanessa, asking her to talk to them, but what would that accomplish? She was the reason this was happening. Even if it wasn't her fault, even if she hadn't asked for this, she was the catalyst. I didn't know how to feel about her. I didn't know how to feel about any of it. The next morning, I packed my car. I couldn't take much. My clothes, my laptop, a few boxes of books and keepsakes. The rest of my things, my mother assured me, would be stored in the basement until I had a place for them. I didn't believe her. I had a feeling most of it would end up in a landfill by the end of the month. I hugged my mother goodbye. It was a stiff, awkward embrace, more obligation than affection. My father shook my hand. "Good luck, son. Keep in touch." Keep in touch. Like I was moving to another country, not being thrown out of my own home. I drove back to Northern State with a knot in my stomach that wouldn't go away. I had 3 weeks until finals. I had no place to live after the semester ended. I had no savings. I had no plan. The first night back, I slept in my car in the commuter student parking lot. It was April in the Midwest, which meant the temperature dropped into the 40s. I had a sleeping bag I had kept in my trunk from camping trips years ago, and I curled up in the back seat, shivering, trying not to think about how far I'd fallen in 24 hours. I kept telling myself it was temporary. I'd figure something out. I always landed on my feet. That's what my father said. I didn't land on my feet. I stumbled, and I kept stumbling. I spent the next few days asking everyone I knew if they had a couch, a floor, any space at all where I could crash for a few weeks. Most people said no. Dorms were full, apartments were expensive, and I was essentially asking strangers to take in a homeless guy during finals week. I don't blame them. I wouldn't have said yes to me either. Finally, a girl from my study group named Kristen said I could stay with her. We weren't close. She was just someone I traded notes with in Argo, but she lived off campus in a small apartment with 2 roommates, and one of them was away for the summer. She said I could have the empty room for a month, as long as I didn't mind the couch being lumpy and the cat being territorial. I moved in that night. I brought my bags into the back door, try and be invisible, try not to take up space. Kristen's apartment was small and cluttered and smelled faintly of cat litter, but it was warm and dry, and it wasn't my car. I slept on that lumpy couch for 3 weeks, and every night I lay there, listening to the cat scratch at the door, feeling like an intruder in someone else's life. Finals were a blur. I studied when I could, but my brain was foggy with stress and exhaustion. I worked my warehouse shifts, stacking boxes until my arms ached, then came back to Kristen's couch and tried to focus on textbooks by the light of my phone, because I didn't want to keep her roommates awake. I passed my classes, but barely. My GPA took a hit that semester, a permanent scar on my academic record. Graduation came and went. I didn't walk. I didn't see any point. My parents weren't there. I hadn't told them when it was, and they hadn't asked. I picked up my diploma from the registrar's office, shook hands with a board administrative assistant, and that was it. For years of work, reduced to a piece of paper handed over in a fluorescent lit room. I didn't hear from my family. Not once. No calls, no texts, no emails. My mother posted on Facebook constantly. Pictures of the nursery, pictures of Vanessa's baby shower, pictures of Vanessa beaming with her growing belly. I watched from a distance, an invisible observer, scrolling through images of a life I'd been erased from. They looked happy. They looked complete. They looked like they didn't miss me at all. Vanessa had her baby in July. A boy. She named him Leo. I found out through an Instagram post my mother tagged her in. "Welcome to the world, sweet Leo. Grandma and Grandpa are so in love." There were photos of my parents in the hospital room, holding the baby, their faces glowing with joy. Vanessa looked exhausted but radiant, propped up in a hospital bed with Derek by her side. I stared at those photos for a long time. I tried to feel happy for her. I tried to feel anything other than the cold, hollow ache in my chest. I couldn't. All I could think about was that I hadn't even known she was in labor. I hadn't been invited to the hospital. I hadn't been told my nephew was born. I didn't exist to them. A few weeks later, Vanessa sent me a text. It was a photo of Leo, a tiny, wrinkled thing with a tuft of dark hair. The message said, "He's here. I miss you." I didn't respond. I didn't know how. What was I supposed to say? Congratulations? I'm happy for you. I'm happy you have everything I lost. I put my phone in a drawer and didn't look at it for the rest of the day. I threw myself into work. I got a full-time job at a logistics company, processing shipments, sitting in a cubicle for 8 hours a day. It wasn't glamorous, but it paid the bills. I found a small studio apartment in a part of town that wasn't great, but it was mine. I furnished it with secondhand furniture and slept on a mattress on the floor for 6 months before I could afford a bed frame. I built a life from scratch, piece by piece, and I did it alone. 2 years passed. 2 years of silence. 2 years of building, of healing, of learning to stop checking my mother's Facebook page because it only made me angry. 2 years of convincing myself I didn't need them, that I was better off without them, that family was just a word and words didn't mean anything. Then, out of nowhere, a message from my mother. Connor, I know it's been a long time. I'd like to talk. Please. I stared at the screen for a full minute. My first instinct was to delete it, to block her number, to pretend I'd never seen it. But I didn't. I let it sit there unanswered. 3 days later, another message. Longer this time. Connor, I'm so sorry. We handled everything wrong. We miss you. Vanessa is getting married to Derek next month. They're finally making it official. We would love for you to be there. Please consider it. We want our family to be whole again. Vanessa was getting married. Of course she was. Derek had stuck around, had stepped up, had become the father Leo needed. I'd seen the posts, engagement photos in a pumpkin patch, Derek down on one knee, Vanessa crying happy tears. They looked like a perfect little family. They looked like they had everything. And now they wanted me to come celebrate. I didn't respond right away. I needed time to think, to process, to untangle the knot of emotions that message had triggered. I thought about everything I'd been through since they kicked me out. The nights in my car, the couch at Kristen's apartment, the loneliness of graduation with no one to clap for me. The first time I paid rent on my own apartment, a small victory that felt hollow because there was no one to share it with. I thought about their apology. 2 years too late, conveniently timed right before a major family event. It felt less like genuine remorse and more like they needed to fill a seat at the wedding, to avoid awkward questions from relatives about why the son was missing. I finally responded. I kept it short. I appreciate the apology, but I'm not ready to pretend the last 2 years didn't happen. I won't be at the wedding. I need more time. My mother didn't reply. I didn't expect her to. A week later, Vanessa messaged me. Connor, I know Mom reached out. I know you said no. I'm not going to pressure you, but I need you to know that I want you there. Not for them. For me. I want my brother at my wedding. I want Leo to know his uncle. Please think about it. That one hit differently. Vanessa and I had history. We had a relationship before everything fell apart. She was the one who taught me to ride a bike, who let me crash in her room when I had nightmares, who drove me to my first job interview because I was too nervous to go alone. We'd been close once. Really close. I thought about calling her, but I didn't know what I'd say, so I let it sit, too. Then Derek messaged me. Derek, who I barely knew, who I'd exchanged maybe 50 words with in total. He said he understood if I was angry, that he didn't know the full story, but he knew family was important, and he hoped I could find a way to forgive the past. It felt patronizing, easy for him to say. He hadn't been the one sleeping in a parking lot while his parents decorated a nursery. A few days later, my phone rang. Vanessa's name lit up the screen. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. Hey, I said. Hey, she said back. And then she started crying. I didn't know what to do. I just listened. She cried for a minute, maybe 2, and then she got herself together enough to talk. I need to see you, she said. Can we meet? Please. Why? I asked. Why now, Vanessa? Why after 2 years? Because I didn't know, she said. I didn't know the truth. That stopped me cold. What are you talking about? She explained. She told me that when our parents told her about the living situation, they said I was moving in with friends, that I had options, that I was excited to have my own space. They made it sound like a choice, like I was ready to move on. She believed them. Why wouldn't she? They were our parents. They wouldn't lie about something like that. She told me she hadn't wanted to move back home. She'd been fine in her own apartment, working her job at a marketing firm, managing just fine. But our parents insisted. They said she needed them, that they wanted to help, that it would be good for all of them to be together. She thought they were being generous. She didn't realize they were clearing a path for themselves, creating a situation where they could play the doting grandparents while I was erasing the picture. It wasn't until after our mother's message, after I said I wouldn't come to the wedding, that Vanessa started asking questions. She confronted them. She demanded to know what really happened, and they admitted it. They admitted they'd kicked me out with nowhere to go, that they'd lied to her about it, that they'd made a choice and they were sticking to it. "I'm so sorry," she kept saying. "I'm so sorry. I should have asked. I should have called you. I was so caught up in being pregnant, in being sick, in having Leo, that I didn't think. I didn't think about anything except surviving. But that's not an excuse. I should have been there for you." I listened. I heard the guilt in her voice, the genuine remorse, and I remembered who she used to be, the sister who protected me, who stood up for me, who made me feel loved when our parents were too busy or too distant to bother. We agreed to meet. The meeting was intense. We sat in a coffee shop, and she cried again, and I tried not to. She showed me photos from her pregnancy, pictures she'd never posted online. In some of them, she was in the hospital, hooked up to monitors, looking pale and exhausted. She'd had complications, she explained. Preeclampsia, bed rest, scares. She'd been so focused on staying healthy for the baby that everything else had fallen away. I believed her. It didn't erase what I'd been through, but explained why she hadn't reached out. She wasn't ignoring me. She was drowning in her own way. We talked for hours. We talked about our childhood, about the ways our parents had failed both of us. We talked about how they'd pitted us against each other, without us even realizing it. We talked about the future, about what we wanted our relationship to look like going forward. By the end of it, I felt something I hadn't felt in 2 years. Hope. Vanessa asked me to come to her wedding, not as a guest, but as her person. She asked me to be in the wedding party. I said yes. The next few weeks were a whirlwind. Vanessa included me in everything. The dress fittings, the rehearsal dinner planning, the little details that made a wedding feel real. I met her friends, reconnected with relatives I hadn't seen in years, watched Leo take his first wobbly steps across Vanessa's living room. It felt like coming home to a place I didn't know I'd been missing. The wedding day arrived. It was a beautiful fall afternoon, the kind of day that makes you believe in second chances. Vanessa looked stunning in her dress, a simple ivory gown that made her glow. Derek couldn't stop smiling. Leo was a ring bearer, toddling down the aisle with a pillow clutched in his tiny hands. I stood at the front of the venue, next to Derek's brother, watching my sister marry the man she loved. And for the first time in 2 years, I felt like I was exactly where I belonged. Our parents were there, of course. They sat in the front row, beaming, playing the role of proud parents. I avoided them. I didn't speak to them. I wasn't ready, and I didn't know if I ever would be. But I was there for Vanessa, and that was enough. The reception was at a local banquet hall, all string lights and rustic charm. The toast came and went. Derek's best man was funny. Vanessa's maid of honor was sweet. Then it was my turn. I gave a short speech, talking about how Vanessa had always been my protector, how proud I was of the woman she'd become, how happy I was that she'd found someone who loved her as much as Derek did. It wasn't fancy, but it was from the heart. After my toast, Vanessa stood up. She had a glass of champagne in her hand, and there was a look on her face I couldn't quite read. Determination, maybe, or resolve. "I have something I need to say," she began, "and I hope you'll bear with me." The room quieted. Most of you know that my brother Connor and I have been through a lot in the last few years. What you might not know is that a lot of that pain was caused by people who were supposed to love us unconditionally. She looked directly at our parents. Their smiles faltered. 2 years ago, our parents made a choice. They decided that Connor was no longer welcome in their home. They kicked him out during finals week. with nowhere to go. He slept in his car. He crashed on a friend's couch. He finished college alone, without a single phone call from them to check if he was okay. And they lied to me about it. They told me he was fine, that he'd chosen to leave, that he was happy. I believed them. And I didn't reach out. That's on me. I carry that guilt every day. A murmur ran through the crowd. I sat frozen, watching my sister speak. But here's the thing I've realized, she continued. Our parents didn't just fail Connor. They failed both of us. They failed us our whole lives. They were never really there. Not for me, not for him. We raised each other. We protected each other. And they let us believe that was normal. My mother's face had gone pale. My father's jaw was tight. When I was pregnant and sick, they showed up for the photo ops, the baby showers, the hospital pictures, the social media posts. But when I needed real support, when I was scared and alone in that hospital, they were nowhere to be found. They've always been like that, present for the celebrations, absent for the struggles. Vanessa's voice wavered, but she didn't stop. And now, at my own wedding, they try to make it about themselves. Mom bought herself a wedding dress. She was going to wear it today. And they planned a vow renewal ceremony for themselves during my reception. They wanted to steal my day. My day. The room was dead silent. I saw Derek's hand find Vanessa's, squeezing it. So, I need to say this publicly because I'm done pretending. I'm done protecting them from the consequences of their choices. They hurt my brother. They hurt me. And they don't get to play happy family while we carry the scars. Vanessa raised her glass. To Connor, the best brother I could have asked for. To second chances. And to building a real family, not just a pretty picture. The room erupted in applause. People were standing, clapping, some wiping tears. I sat there, stunned, as Vanessa walked over and pulled me into a hug. I love you, she whispered. I'm so sorry it took me so long. After that, our parents approached her. I watched from across the room as they confronted her, their faces twisted with outrage. I couldn't hear what they said, but I could see Vanessa's posture, steady, unyielding. She didn't back down. She didn't apologize. Eventually, they left. They walked out of the reception, past the string lights and the floral arrangements, past the guests who watched them go with a mixture of shock and satisfaction. The door closed behind them, and the room seemed to exhale. The rest of the night was perfect. We danced, we laughed, we celebrated. Leo fell asleep in my arms at one point, his tiny head resting against my chest, and I looked down at him and thought about the future, about being his uncle, about being part of his life in a way our parents had never been part of ours. Vanessa found me later, after the cake was cut and the DJ was playing slow songs. She was barefoot, her dress hitched up, her hair falling out of its updo. "Thank you for coming," she said. "Thank you for asking," I said. She smiled. "We're going to be okay, you know. You and me. We're going to be okay." I believed her. Months have passed since the wedding. Vanessa and I talk regularly now. I've watched Leo grow from a baby into a toddler, taken him to the park, taught him to stack blocks. I've built a relationship with Derek, who turned out to be a genuinely good guy. We have dinner together, the three of us, for counting Leo, and it feels like family, real family. Our parents haven't contacted us. Not once. They've gone radio silent, licking their wounds, probably waiting for us to come crawling back. We won't. We've learned that family isn't about blood or obligation or pretty pictures on social media. It's about showing up. It's about being there when it counts. It's about choosing each other, even when it's hard. I still think about that night in my car sometimes. The cold, the fear, the loneliness. It's a part of me now, a scar that won't fully fade. But scars aren't weaknesses. They're proof that you survived. I survived, and I built something better.